Okay, I'm on. Give me a second to get set up here. I gotta go get my other phone too. Hang on. Pause. Get me set up here. See, that way I can see who's on. Three people. Who's on? Anybody here? Big giant head, never properly introduced. Roger. Roger, I'm Matt. Hey, Larry. So, good evening, Ken. I gave everybody the night off last night, actually not on purpose. I fell asleep at about 5 o'clock, didn't wake up till 9. So Ken, pretty much when you left, hey William, Ken, pretty much when you left, I think I went inside and fell asleep. I don't know, it was very early. Then I slept from noon until 7, and then I slept again from 9 until noon this morning, or today. So, I was just wiped. But Ken and I had a good time yesterday. Thanks for the t-shirts, Ken. Appreciate it. And I don't know if the Sarge is here, but I got a gift in the mail. This is actually a, well, it looks like, was it 3/16? 3/16 nut driver, yeah, just a regular old, probably boring nut driver, but he ground it down so it's smooth. And this he uses for 660 spring, like for the chain brake spring, and he wanted me to try it. And since I don't have a 660 to build, kind of hard to try, but thank you just the same. So Sarge, there you go. Thank you very much. So, alright, let's see. We got, I basically have two projects. Well, I guess if you include the 394, I have two kind of imminent projects. Two here, and the blower. The only thing I'm missing on the blower now are those dang little washers that go on the crank before you put the bearings on. But they're not exactly easy to find, and they're actually machine shims or something like that. They're called machine shims. And so I need to go down to a specialty fastener place, which is right down the street. But they're not open today, so I'll go on Monday and see if I can get those. And then we could do the blower. The 262, I don't think we're going to get to tonight. But I did want to show you guys something interesting. The reason we're not going to get to it tonight is because I wanted to make a tool that is specially designed to go right here, flywheel side, to help position this bearing in the case. Because this bearing can and will come all the way through if you want it to. Now, I don't know why they designed it like this. I don't know why there's a seal retainer. It just means that there's an extra rubber piece in there, a stupid O-ring, just something that can go wrong, you know. But I find this interesting. So let's look inside here. Now normally what I'll do is I'll just crank the bearing in until it's flush with the crankcase. Like on a 372, that's basically what you do. You crank it all the way in, and it's usually ends up fairly flush with the crankcase. This is not a machine surface. The crankcase in here is not a machine surface. This is, where the bearing sits is a machine surface, and this is a machine surface. So, this is a OEM bottom end. I don't think the bottom end has ever been messed with, but I want to show you guys something interesting. And Ken, just for you, we're doing this in thousandths. $48.5, 49-ish, 49 thousandths. $40. $49. $44.5. So over here, 40 even. There's a low spot, or rather, there's actually the bearing is sitting lower here. It's sitting high here, if you think about it that way. I set the bearing so the seal flange sits up against the bearing and case. Well, in this particular saw, you need to set the bearing probably about 40 thousandths down to account for the fact that there's a rubber seal. And this rubber seal, by the way, needs to get replaced. So there's this rubber seal, and then there's the regular. Where would he be? That's hard. These are the regular OEM seals that go in here, but man, that's hard. I mean, the base gasket leak, old seals, even they hold maybe at low temperature. At high temperature, they might open up. Anyway, so I find it fascinating that the bearing is not exactly right with the machine surface. You can assume that it might be not quite right with the inside of the crankcase in here might not be exactly level, but I don't know why the bearing is not set exactly according to, what was he doing? So parallel to the machine surface. Now it doesn't have to be flush, it needs to be inset specifically. But why is it 10 thousandths off? It's like if you go over here, I think it's like closer to 50,000. Yeah, 50 thousandths. It's literally 10 thousandths off. Sorry, William. Yeah. So what you can do, which I imagine I was considering doing, is using this seal flange as a stop. So basically put this on, pull the new bearing in up against the stop. But I thought I'd make my own tool, and based on this, let me just show you something interesting. So that's 42 and a half there. we're gonna assume this is millimeter, okay? It makes sense that this is millimeter, so let's go to millimeter. It's basically 1 millimeter. So if I can use this as a stop, but what I probably should do is make an aluminum disc here and use that instead of using this. Something that's, you know, a little more robust than this. And we'll use that to pull the bearing in. So I didn't get a chance to make it the other day. Yesterday, the day that Ken was here, man, I had a super busy day. And I drove all the way to my folks, and I was gonna use the lathe, and my brother had a project he was doing, and he had just set it up. So I guess it just happened. Yeah, the bore could be out of square. The bearing could just have been installed out of square. I'm going to install it according to the machine surface, the machined outer surface, so it should be even to that machined outer surface. Makes sense to me, you know. You know, ultimately, if you wanted ultra precision, then what you do is you put the bearings in, and like Ken and I were talking about yesterday, you get some type of a bar that goes all the way through both bearings instead of the crank, and see, you know, you can level it to that on the Bridgeport, you can do all kinds of stuff, but you'd be able to see exactly how far off you are. I don't think chainsaws are quite that precise. Working on that bar. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I just... It would be nifty to put a bar... Well, to put a case together temporarily, take a bar and run it through both bearings, and then use that to level the deck on the lathe. Because that would be a wee bit more accurate, likely, than... well, really anything else. On this is 6202s. On the 394s is 6203s. And most saws, most of them, even though like an 044 for instance, has a 6202 on the flywheel side, but a proprietary bearing on the clutch side. But even though it's a proprietary bearing, they use the same inner diameter. Yeah, William, I think the bearing's cocked too. I think this was cocked at the factory. I find that interesting. Do you find that I find that interesting. Maybe that's just me. So when I make my driver, or rather, I don't know what you call it, the aluminum shim that I'm going to use there, I'll probably set it just over 40 thousandths, like 42, and see how it does. And we'll pull the bearing in and then assemble the case. And the other thing is, if I'm trying to assemble the case with my crank tools, I don't have, I mean, I've sold all the tools, so this is, I think, M10 by 1.5 left hand, and I don't have a tool for that anymore. And since our ETA on the tools is next Friday, we're going to have to wait for that in order to put this together anyway. So I basically have until next Friday to go machine seal drivers and crank positioners and all that stuff for the 262. So I won't even worry about doing any of that right now. So I'm essentially stymied here. I can't do much. Still waiting on... I gotta get a 372 top end for the one that broke over there. I'm waiting on the piston for the... I'll get that fairly soon. That order's been placed. Mark, how's it going? If it's out of square, it'll be tough pulling it in. Well, yeah, if a bearing is out of square as you're pulling it in, it's kind of hard, so you have to tap it. But I can... Usually the bearings sit up against something. How this was placed at the factory, I don't know. And how it was that far off from the factory, I don't know. That's just interesting. William, if you have not tried my crank tools, then you're missing out. I promise you. Yeah, 10 thousandths is a lot to be out for a bearing to be cocked. Yeah. So not much to do tonight, but I did want you guys to let you know that I'm not neglecting you. It's just I don't have a whole lot to talk about right now. Tools are coming hopefully Friday. Friday is the date. And the other news that I have is I have a potential job. So big news there. I do have a potential job, and I am going to be discussing the contract on Monday, I think. So I won't necessarily be starting for at least another week, but that's coming. That's coming. Cold tap the high side and see if it moves a squeege. I could. Sort of like the clutch side bearing, they have to be damn near perfect when installed. Well, right, well, 385, 390, I think is a little different. You just pull them until they're flush with the crankcase inside. With a 385, 390, with a 660, or like a 440, you're going to pull it until it stops against the oiler. But that better be damn near close too. That better not be 10 thousandths off. And even if you go around, you take a 660, and that bearing has come through a bit, which it does, you can take your depth gauge and check all the way around for, 40 thousandths or whatever, is what it's got to be through to be up against the oiler. And, it's pretty darn close all the way around. You're plus or minus a thousandth or two, not 10. I haven't measured. How about inside? $49 thousandths there. 36 there. 49. Missed. 36 there. 33, 45. See, I can imagine internally the paint layer might have something to do with it. It might be a little bit off. That's 38. Let's go back here. See, I can imagine internally the paint layer might have something to do with it. It might be a little bit off. That's 38. 37, 38. I don't know, but I think 33 might have been an aberrant reading. 40. 38. 38. So 38 to over here. 46, 47. Oh, it says 52. That says 58. It's getting bigger. Hang on. This is calibrated. $51. There you go. 51. $35. It's, you know, however you slice it, it's off by a bit. So I can tap it right there and see if it moves. But ultimately, we're pulling these bearings out anyway. I just tapped on it, it didn't move. No movie. I'm still 10 thousandths off. Yeah, that's corresponding correct, I think. That's low. So that is pushed too far in. So yeah, that's correct. Yep. So I mean, I can get it into the right spot, but it doesn't seem to want to move by itself. Interesting, you know, just this is stupid stuff. It's just find it interesting. So whatever. Yeah, I'm really not feeling like doing much tonight. What else are you guys doing? So the 390, the clutch side bearing wasn't installed properly? What do you mean, Larry? Was it cocked to one side? What was the deal? See, I remember that argument. One, was it the 562s? Initially, the 562 XPs were having bearing trouble, or something. It was something like that. They were having bearing trouble, and the the explanation was that it was due to improper installation at the factory. And it's like, oh, okay, improper installation at the factory. What are they doing? Putting these things in with a sledgehammer? I mean, how far off could it be? I mean, you know, you set up the equipment, and it's plus or minus a thousandth of an inch. That's it. I mean, bearing presses can't possibly be inaccurate, so I don't, I don't get it. Some of the explanations sometimes just don't make any sense. Whatever. Governor gear on a Tecumseh. Another thing that needs to be heave-hoed, Ken. Notre Dame versus Northwest. Good game? They put it in from the outside instead of splitting the case. Oh. Wasn't in far enough, destroyed the flywheel side, rubbed a hole in the lower transfer. Wow. Don't tell my customer that. How would you put a bearing in? They didn't split the case. Oh, golly. All right. Larry, whoever did that, didn't split the case, needs a set of my tools, because then you won't be afraid of splitting cases. Before I had my tools, I was just... Splitting cases just annoyed me. Now I don't care. I split them at the drop of a hat. No big deal. I'll bet he was upset, yeah. So, Larry, you gonna need a new cylinder on that? Was it a hole from the flywheel that rubbed from the outside? Because everything was moved over so significantly? Larry, you gonna need a new cylinder on that? Was it a hole from the flywheel that rubbed from the outside? Because everything was. Oh, you use the race puller to pull the outer race out? I've seen Walt do that. Just so everybody knows, if you want to see a funny video, go check out my video on how to pull a bearing with peanut butter. Essentially, if you got a 6203, which effectively that 385, 390 bearing is, you just reassemble. You put a new inner race in there with a few bearings, and space them with something goopy, and pull it out cold with some threaded rod. Works fine. Or you can use that special puller. Rub the hole the size of a pencil tip. I'll have it TIG welded. Yeah, if you can get it TIG welded, that's great. Still annoying, huh? Yikes. Anybody have anything else going? 10 people here. Lots of work for you. Yes, lots of work. Larry, do you have a TIG welder? I have a... Well, my folks have a MIG welder. We actually... my dad was the original owner of a Homelight 750. Like, one of the biggest power heads Homelight ever made. CC-wise. And, you know, for collectors, those are great. But not for my dad. So we ended up selling it, and we took the money and bought a MIG welder, and it was like the most super awesome decision ever. Yeah, if you know a guy with a machine shop, you just walk in there and strike an arc, you know? Make a spark. A little bit of filler rod and you're done. Weather in Connecticut. Today was windy. I mean, we've had the last 2 years, 2017, 2018, are probably some of the windiest I've ever experienced. I think last year was possibly windier than 2018, but it's been windy. You know, not 60 miles an hour, but 25, 30, so it's kind of annoying to just blow stuff all around the yard. It was actually pretty warm today, the sun was out some. It was pretty warm, but we had like 2 days of rain before that. So we just keep getting rain, and it's driving everybody berserk. The sun was out some, pretty warm, but we had like 2 days of rain before that. So we just keep getting rain, and it's driving everybody berserk. 42-inch bar for one of the 660s. Sweet. Crank up that oiler. Yeah, I'm surprised the leaves came down real fast. So I was out today chopping them up with the mower, and tomorrow we'll go out and do a little. I guess tomorrow's supposed to be pretty nice, but a little cooler. I was out today working on the shed a little bit and moving lumber around. A lot of little stuff to get done, and then work on the stuff, finish up the shed. I don't know, finish is a strong word, but work on the shed here so that I can get everything a little more ready, especially if I'm going to get a job soon. I'm not going to have time to be messing with that. Blowing higher to the Cape. Yeah, I'll bet the wind was bad out in the Cape. Rain and very windy here. Yep. 13 people watching. I wish I had something more fun for you guys tonight. I really don't want to take the 262 any further until I get a couple of things made, and then we can play, you know. You're ready for snow, huh? Okay. To each his own. I don't know if I'm ready for snow. I mean, snow's going to come one way or another, but ready for it, I don't know. I need some more nice days to get stuff done outside. Five snowmobiles. Okay, well, I don't even think I've ever ridden on one. Never. I've had, I remember down in Texas when I was in college, there were plenty of guys there from Alaska, and they just, to them it was snow machining. It was not snowmobiles, it was snow machines, and they were kind of nuts about it. Yeah, some years are good for it, other years are not. You know, whatever. All right. I guess I don't want to hang out too long. I mean, I like hanging out with you guys, but I wish I had something a little better to offer tonight. I really don't even know what we're going to do tomorrow night. So, you guys may get a couple of days off here. Hopefully Monday we can get back to that blower, especially if I can get those, the silly washers. If I can get the washers, then we can just get the blower going, and maybe Monday, if I end up, Monday or Tuesday, end up down at my folks to do some machining, then I can get this stuff done, and then we can start putting that together. Well, no, I got to wait till Friday, because I got to wait till my tools get here. Oh. Anyway, other questions, comments, anything before I take off and get my dinner? Go Irish, beat Northwestern. Daughter, wear your shirt at work. Okay. I'm glad she likes it, kid. Good night, guys. Thank you so much. And sorry I didn't have anything super exciting tonight, but I want you to let you know I'm not disappearing on you. I am potentially getting a job, but it'll be like at least a week, I think, before I start. So keep in touch. Again, thanks to, I don't know, John for sending this for me. Sarge, appreciate that. Don't know when I'm going to use it, but whatever. And just so David knows, your saw will be in the mail Monday. I will get you a tracking number on Monday, and I'm going to insure it. Night all, and thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.